What is up, everyone? This is your host, Eric Holtzman, and welcome to the Mindful Motion Podcast. What's up, everybody? Hope you all are doing great. Today, I'm doing a solo cast, and I'm talking about change. You know, the challenges of changing who we are, what we look like, the habits that we have. It's really, really difficult for many of us. And some of us have a predilection of being able to do that a little bit easier. And it is always curious as to why some people can make changes so rapidly and so quickly and not seem to struggle on the outside looking in, where some of us really have challenging times with making changes with our physique, making changes in our lives and the habits that we basically have. And one of the main factors for the reason that this can be difficult for us and for many of us is this concept and principle of homeostasis. And this idea of homeostasis is simply that we have a baseline of where we're at that our body has gotten comfortable with. We have a physical appearance, a physical performance level, a mental state, a way of living that has become ingrained in our habits, but also in our actual physiology. Our brain, our nervous system, our neural pathways have been formed around the things that we do. And if you do it long enough, they become they become ingrained in us. Now, we have a nervous system that is plastic, meaning that it can be changed, but change doesn't come easy. And it's really interesting because when we think about our internal discussion, right? When we want something to change, we have a lot of thoughts. We have a back and forth internal battle within ourselves oftentimes where we're like, let's say we want to lose weight. It's a very common goal for people, especially within the fitness world with where I live day in, day out. People want to be leaner, they want to be bigger, they want to be thinner, you name it. There's a lot of different physical avenues you can go down. But there is desire to create physical change. Well, what is required for that is not thinking, but that is where we often start. We start thinking, okay, what do I need to do to get that body? Okay, I need to work out. How often do I need to work out? Okay, what's that going to look like in my schedule? How am I going to find the time? I don't have the time, but I need to have the time. We go through this sort of battle in our minds to figure out what I need to do. How is it going to fit in my life? What kind of actions do I need to take? And for some of us, that's as far as we go. We just think about it, and then we almost psych ourselves out with this back and forth, and we don't take action. And then that's usually the first place people start, and that might happen for a while. But there needs to be a true underlying motivator that's powerful enough to take you past the initial thinking phase and push you towards action. And that's when people start to do something. They start to go to the gym, right? And now they're in the process of taking action. But this is still new to your system. It's new to your life. It's new to your brain. And very often the case, many people start taking action, going to the gym, changing their diet for a month, a few weeks, maybe a couple months. And then it starts to wane and they start to decrease the actions they take and they start to revert back to what they used to do, because they haven't fully adopted these new things into their nervous system and into their brains and into their bodies. And I think if you really understand that changes need to come over time before they become your norm, and you realize that, okay, there's a time frame here. You have to stick with this thing long enough before it becomes part of your life. If you can realize that, it might help motivate you to stay in it for longer. And the best way I find for myself to stay in something new that maybe I don't necessarily fully enjoy is finding ways to create enjoyment about it. So, you know, if there's a gold standard workout or a process that you want to adopt and try to utilize to create change, that is phenomenal. And don't let, anything stop you from doing that. But if that process is unenjoyable, it's tedious, and you don't like it, and you don't want to do it, but you keep forcing yourself to do it, it's going to be very difficult to stay in that process for months and months, because enjoyment is the big aspect of motivation for you to do something. It's tough to force yourself to do something you hate. And then if you hate it, well, there is actual physiological things that happen when you hate something. Different types of neurotransmitters and hormones are released when you have the emotion of hate or dislike, versus something that you frame as something you get to do, something you enjoy, something that you're grateful for, creates a whole different stew of neurotransmitters and hormones that changes your physiology. And by the looks of it, from what I've seen and heard out there with the research, when you have the positive framework and enjoyment with the thing that you're trying to install into your life, it is much more likely to stick. And not only because you can stick with it, but actually because of those compounds that we talked about that are released in your brain and nervous system, it helps solidify and anchor it into who you are as a human being. And, it might be helpful to look at those people that you see on Instagram and bodybuilders and people who really look like they have it all. They have the physique you want to aspire to. They have the career that seems fun, and they're making tons of money and this and that. And you really look up to these people. Well, I think it's useful to know, because I talked to some of these people, is that they struggle too. Everyone struggles when it comes to making change. We just struggle in different ways. It might be that you're harsh on yourself when you make a mistake, or it might be that you don't take action because you're afraid of making a mistake. At the end of the day, how it looks is going to vary person to person, but we all struggle. And if that is some peace of mind for you, that's great, because then you can start to relate to people that even you look up to and understand that we start from a place of not being where we want, and then we work towards that place that we want to go to. So how do we create a framework to create change? Well, there's a lot of different types of materials out there and books and things that talk about habit change. And you get a time frame of anything between 30 days to 6 months to basically saying that if you do something new, you need to do it for 30 to 60 days. And now that new thing is part of your life. I kind of have learned from my experience for myself that is way too short of a time frame. Now, for some people, that might not be the case. But when I'm trying to say, like recently, I've been trying to work out maybe 3, 4, 5 times a day in small little amounts, different types of workouts, trying to keep myself moving, right? And I've only been doing this for a week or so. Instead of just working out 4 or 5 times a week for an hour, trying to spread it out, see if it makes me feel any type of way. I have to say I like it a lot. But I don't think, based on my experience, that if I do that for 4 weeks, it's going to be my norm. I think I'd have to do it for like 6 months plus to be able to say that this is who I am. This is my norm now. And that's something I've acquired from my experience over time. And maybe if you look back on the things that you've tried and tried to implement in your life, new habits, right? How long did it take for you to say, not even think about this thing as being new? So think back to something you've done that was new, and then now is part of your life. How long did it take for you to just not even think about it anymore? It's just your life now. Use past historical references to help you make decisions moving forward. Because honestly, everyone's so different that it's great to have a book give you a framework that you can work off of, but your life and experiences will help you really create a more specific framework for you and you alone. The N of one study, the study of you, is the best way to determine what to do and what will work. So it is so heavily dependent on action when we talk about change. Don't get stuck in the thinking phase. Yes, thinking is where it starts, but if you stay there too long, right, and you don't take actions, then you're not going to make any difference. It's really is the biggest thing is taking action. And even if it's imperfect action, if you're not sure what to do, but you have some ideas, then just pick something and do it, and then make adjustments along the way. If you stay in the thinking phase and try to make a perfect decision, more often than not, people don't make a decision at all and they don't do anything. And then in this case, they don't make any changes. I think it's also really important to be forgiving for yourself, to yourself. You can't expect to be perfect day in and day out. But if you can understand that if you're taking action, even if it's imperfect, you're moving forward towards something. You can learn from mistakes. You can learn from failures. You can't learn from something you don't do. And certainly thinking about something will not create any real change, because you need physical movement and actual decisions to move things forward. Honestly, even when it comes to intellectual thinking things, if you can combine a physical component, it often helps aid that. So there's a ton of research on this. When you want to learn something new, whether it be math or a skill like playing an instrument, there's a ton of research on the fact that if you add physical movement and excitation through physical exertion, those learning capabilities go up. Actually, in high school, a friend of mine did a little science project on me and some other people, and we basically did like a memorization task sitting in a chair, the way we learn typically in a classroom, right? We don't move, we sit and we try to learn. And then they had me ride a bike on a second attempt. I rode a bike for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I tried to learn that thing again. And the percentage of my ability to learn or memorize something after bike riding was significantly higher. What does that mean exactly? That means because I was moving and I was exciting my system with physical exertion, my ability to learn and memorize something went up. So if you have a skill you want to get better at, adding physical movement within it will be very helpful. If you, and this is partly why I've been thinking, all right, let me see if I can add movement more in my day. I'm going to ride the bike for 20 minutes. I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. I'm going to do a short 15-minute lift. I'm going to do a longer lift. And then each couple hours or so, I'm adding physical movement. The idea being, let me see if this helps with my day, my mood, my physical performance, how I feel, my emotions, my ability to remember things, to think things through. And honestly, it's helping quite a bit. And you guys, anyone can do this, even if your schedule is crazy. You don't have to do a long bout. You can do 5-10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 30 minutes there, to help aid with all these things. We developed in our evolution to move around. We would never have sat for hours at a time. And this is a big part of the problem, I believe, that is driving the epidemic of health within our nation, not just food quality, but the fact that we just don't move much. So really the consensus here, right, of habit change and making physical changes you want to see in yourself, or mental, emotional, intellectual changes you want to see in yourself, you can't stay in the thinking phase. Take imperfect action, move the ball forward, move the needle in the right direction, and start doing something. And keep doing something every day. And if you find it's not going in the direction you want, that's great. Now you learned, okay, this wasn't the right thing. I need to tweak it this way or that way, or I need to abandon this altogether and do something else because this isn't taking me where I want to go. But now you have some data because you took action, and now you can work off that action. If you don't take action, you can't make change. It's really that simple. And I know it is, it can be daunting and scary and uncertain, and that's life in a lot of ways, right? But take that on with some action you feel is repeatable. Then also try to see if you can find some joy and fun and excitement within those actions that you take, because they're there if you're willing to see it, and if you're willing to look, and if you're willing to learn and not be harsh on yourself and be grateful for where you're at. Don't compare yourself to anyone else, because you're on your own journey and you have your own experiences, your own uniqueness and goals, and comparing you to someone else will only make things jumbled up and confusing, and you're going to start judging where you're at, and that will deter you from taking action because you're going to play that internal thought game that's going to put you on that wheel of just continuous emotional roller coaster that doesn't serve you. So try to stay in the moment, be present, be grateful, take a moment to appreciate your life, and then take action towards where you want to go and stick with that for a while. Make adjustments as needed, but it might take you more than 90 days, 60 days, 30 days to solidify a change in your life. Remember, homeostasis is powerful. Your body does not want to change. Your mind does not want to change. So in order to do that, you're going to have to stick with something for a while before it becomes part of your life. And it might be as long as a year or two. But if you find enjoyment in it, it's not a burden. So I hope you guys got some value from this, because I know that habit change is tough, and I've read many books on it, and they all are phenomenal resources, but nothing will be better than your experiences, taking action, learning from your mistakes, learning from your successes and failures, and then continuing to move forward with imperfect action and growth. All right, guys. You have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.